I think you can get there by boat, because you see they lock the gate, but I guess you can't get it over there. I'll say, well, you can probably get it by boat.
I think
I couldn't get up that hill right there.
hang on to that.
All right, he won.
Yeah, they renovated it up.
You don't get to see a bullet hole? Get out of it, they fix it up.
If y'all want to just kind of stay seated, I'll give you a little history about the house, about Maul Barker, whatever. My name's Terry. I'm strictly just a volunteer tour guide. Our tram driver today is James. He works for Marion County Parks and Recreation. One thing we do ask, you silence your cell phones. That's just to be courteous of the others. You're all on this tour because you've heard something about Maul Barker. You've heard about this big shootout that took place here. 5-hour shootout, 2,000 rounds was fired into this house. Yeah, the longest shootout that FBI history. Well, I'll start right off the top. It was not the FBI.
How long did it take them to find the house?
I'll get into all that. The shootout started somewhere around 7 o'clock. It ended around noon, but nobody went in the house, or ended around 9, and nobody went in the house till noon. So there's your 5 hours. I'll mention this also. I know these seats get hard, so if you feel the need to stand up or walk around, feel free to do so. Whatever you need to do. Yeah, not the FBI. 2,000 rounds fired into this house. That is a myth that we cannot get rid of. It has stuck since 35. The actual count of bullet holes in this house a day after the shootout was 641. Of that 641, 147 of them are in that upstairs room right there. Of that 147, there's 9 high-powered rifle shots in Freddie's left shoulder, 3 shots to his head, 2 of them penetrating his skull, and Maul was found with 3 bullet wounds in her chest area next to her heart. So now you know the truth, but as they say, when the myth gets larger than the truth, they always print the myth.
But I still have a question. Who was involved in the shootout if it wasn't the FBI?
Thank you.
It was called, at that time, it was the Department of Investigation. Now, the Department of Investigation was controlled by the Justice Department, who was headed by J. Edgar Hoover.
Right.
So, close enough to be the FBI probably. This was 1935, January 16th. The FBI did not become official until January 1 of 1936. So, it's pretty much the same people, just a different name.
Because I knew J. Edgar Hoover was involved. I knew that.
He was still in charge of it all.
Okay, thank you.
You probably read that, yes, Maul Barker and her son Freddie were found dead in this house. That is true. You might have read or seen back in 2016, this house made national news when they floated it across the lake to this present location. Wow. How did that all come about? Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the house first. This house was built in 1930. Over here on 9 acres, over here on North Shore. Some prime real estate. The family still, it was built as a vacation home, weekend getaway. The Bradford family was from Miami. The 9 acres had been purchased back in 1892 by Carson Bradford Sr. So they had the property. They thought it would be cooler over there on the lake, out of Miami, than it is down there in the summertime. I live over here across the lake, and I don't know if it's any cooler or not. That was their theory. This house was used, it was built It's 2,100 square feet. It has 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, had electricity, and it's one of the first houses ever built with what they call gypsum board. We know it today as drywall. So every bullet hole in this house at one time was patched, but they didn't know what they were really doing. They did a really, really poor job. You can take those pictures of the bullet holes taken the day after the shootout, hold them up to a wall, and they are easy to find where the holes were. The furniture in this house, some of us been in here since 1930. A lot of it has went through the shootout, so it's pretty fragile stuff. It's pretty high dollar stuff even back in those days, because the Bradford family, before they moved to Miami, they ran a furniture manufacturing company in Nashville, Tennessee. So it's pretty good furniture in there. Lots of pictures in there. They were taken basically the day after the shootout. The pictures they took the day of the shootout was put in a light blue envelope and flown to Chicago to get developed. Somewhere along the line, it got some sunlight to it, and all the pictures was real blurry. There's one picture in there of kind of mall laid in front of a closet door, but it's really, really blurry. So Revell Studios out of Ocala came down the next day and took most of the pictures that you'll see the day after. You can see where they've already got stuff gathered up. They used this house until 2014. It had got to the point where the heirs of Carson Bradford Jr., they weren't using the house. They decided they would try to sell this house. They had Sotheby's out of New York City, was the auction house. They wanted $1 million for this house, all the contents in it, and the 9 acres over there on North Shore. They had 0 offers. Finally, some developers got together, and they wanted the 9 acres. They didn't care about this house. Like I say, prime real estate. They ended up giving $750,000 for it. There was a brick home back that way that they had already tore down. They were going to tear this house down. They just wanted that property over there. George Albright III, our Marion County tax collector, he grew up just down from this house over there, and he went to the county commissioners and said, look, they will give us this house. All the contents inside, they will give it to us. There's one catch. We got 30 days to get it off of that property. They're going to tear it down. Believe it or not, county government can work quickly. Within 30 days, they got this house off of that property over there. This was all the woods. It belonged to the county. So it was chosen. This is the location for the house. What they did over there, they had a construction company out of Jacksonville come over here, and they jacked the house up a little bit. They put these remote control pneumatic wheels underneath it. Over there, they could dig in the sand to get the wheels under it. So they did that. They drove it up on this little makeshift barge made out of a bunch of floating pieces. It looked like a jigsaw puzzle. Drove the house up on it and pushed this house across the lake with a little 16-foot John boat. There's plenty of pictures in there of that. Anything they thought would get broke, they just laid down on the floor. They did not strap that chimney. Pictures of that. They did have to remove the bottom portion of this front porch. It was ate up with termites, so that has been rebuilt. A couple of things happened over there before they moved it. Number one, they had a metal detecting group out of DeLand come over there, and they metal detected all the property. Found some incidentals around some of the trees. They would find bullet casings where the agents had fired into the house. They found bullets where the Barkers had fired at the agents. And they ran across something that's pretty interesting. Freddie Barker was known to wear a little pinky ring like a lot of gangsters and mafia people do. They found a little gold ring with the initials of FGB, which would have stood for Frederick George Barker. Mr. Albright has that safety. We got lots of pictures of it in there. So they found that. The other thing, a day before they actually moved the house, the workers got there that morning, and there was an old door that was leaned up back to that back room back there. I call them, this door still has been shot. But you know where it went in the house? But the theory there is that it's back there in that back room. Now we call it the mystery door. Our theory here is that somebody had that old door as a keepsake or souvenir, something probably been handed down generations, and they decided with the house being moved that that door needed to go with the house. So that's the significance of that door. Got the house over here, as you can see, it's real steep here in the big lake. So they cleared out a place down there to that bad house. Takes a hard right. It's not near as steep there. It sat down there for 30 days maybe while they waited on this monolithic concrete slab that it sits on now to cure out. Drove it up here, got it on the concrete slab, spun it 180 degrees, and they couldn't get the wheels out from under it. Over there, they were digging in the sand. Now we're on top of concrete. So the house sits exactly 2 blocks higher today than it did its original location. These brick columns you see around it, those are actually concrete block now. But they had a masonry guy take the original brick, shaved them down, and they stuck them up there, kind of a facade that they are the original brick that the house sat on. Those are the original steps. If you look closely, the bottom 2 steps was added because, like I say, we sat 2 foot higher now. A little bit about Maul Barker. She was born October the 8th, 1873. Her given name was Arizona Donnie Clark. She didn't like that name, so she started calling herself Kate or Katie. She married a gentleman who was debatable here, 14 to 19 years older than her. Her senior. Together they had 4 sons. Herman, Lloyd, Arthur, they called him Doc, and of course our youngest son, Freddie. Incidentally, Ma and all 4 boys will die by gunshot wounds. I'll tell you more about that later. These boys were always in and out of trouble all their life. Somewhere around 19 and 28, Daddy George just kind of left the picture. He was interviewed later and he said that he just couldn't take it anymore. Ma would not let him discipline the boys. So he just kind of backed out of the picture. At that time, he had 1 son already dead. The other 3 were serving time in prison. So he just backed out of the picture. Basically, we left them all living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in a tar shack, dirt floors, all that. The day after this shootout, J. Edgar Hoover put out a press release that said Kate Barker was the most dangerous, vicious, resourceful criminal mind of the past decade, saying that she planned all the da-da-da-da-da. Well, truth be known, it was the first time any federal agent had ever really killed a woman, a 65-year-old woman. You expect him to say that in recovery. But if you'd have talked to friends and family about Maul Barker, they would have told you that she was nothing more than a simple Southern lady, like to do jigsaw puzzles, crossword puzzles, listen to hillbilly music, go to church on Sundays. Harvey Bailey, who grew up with the Barker boys out there in Tulsa, he goes down in history as the dean of American bank robbers, but he was asked when he was in prison, did Ma Barker plan all these bank robberies and kidnappings? And his reply was, Ma Barker cannot plan breakfast. So you have this side saying this, you have this side saying this. Neither one of them really tell you the truth. The truth is, they did not come here looking for Ma Barker. They came here looking for the Barker Carpus Gang. Ma Barker was never police photographed, never police fingerprinted, never arrested of any crime. And to me, the most important part of this is most all criminals are fingered by somebody seeing them at the scene of a crime. Of course, nowadays we have cameras everywhere, so they're basically convicted because somebody's seen them. Nobody to this day has ever came forward and said that Ma Barker was at the scene of a crime. Has anybody ever seen the movie Bloody Mama starring Shelley Winters? Well, here's my opinion of that movie. The only thing they got correct was they named all 4 boys correctly. They've got her as this cigar chomping, machine gun toting, planned all the damn robberies, all the kidnappings, drove the getaway car. You would think if she was this, somebody would have recognized this woman doing all this, but nobody's ever put her at the scene of a crime. Once again, we got, different takes. 1931, well, Freddie met Alvin Karpus in 1928 also. They were both serving time for burglary in the Kansas State Penitentiary. They became good friends, remained good friends right up until Freddie shot dead in his house. In 1931, they were paroled. They soon hooked back up together, and in 1932, second youngest brother, Arthur or Doc, he gets paroled. So they join up together, and that is the nucleus of the Barker Carpus Gang. Alvin Karpus was more than likely the brains of the outfit. He had a photographic memory. He would plan the robberies, plan their escape routes. He would run the routes after they had set up a job to make sure, and he could remember which road to turn on. Never on major highways to draw attention to them. He was noted as even storing gasoline in different places so they could have that, or spare tires. And he was most likely the brains of the operation. Freddie and Doc were just cold-blooded killers. They killed over their short run of span of life there. The Barker Carpus Gang killed over 30 people.
Wow.
More than any, if you took all your public enemies from Machine Gun Kelly all the way down through Bonnie and Clyde, the most anybody came up with, like Bonnie and Clyde, which she probably never killed anybody, was all Clyde, was 9. Machine Gun Kelly never killed anybody. His wife killed more people than he did. That's all another story. But they were a vicious bunch. They went through the Midwest. They were robbing banks, jewelry stores, clothing stores, furniture stores. Anywhere they thought there was money, they would rob it. Now, about this time, J. Edgar Hoover has what he calls his war on crime. He started having these public enemy number ones. Like I say, Machine Gun Kelly, Babyface Nelson, Bonnie and Clyde, John Dillinger, the list goes on. And he had put together what he called his flying squad. It was a bunch of agents. It was kind of special agents. And they would travel around the country when they get tips on one of these public enemies. They were slowly taking them out. And with each one they took out, the Barker Carpus Gang was slowly rising to the top. So, the Barker Carpus Gang decided that they are going to go to St. Paul, Minnesota. It was kind of a safe haven for gangsters and mafia people. it was kind of controlled by the chief of police there, a gentleman named Big Tom Brown. His idea was he invited the gangsters and mobsters to come to town, spend your money, but number one rule is you do not commit a crime in my city limits. There's even a newspaper article about that time that since he became chief of police, crime was drastically reduced under his leadership. That was kind of because the gangsters and mafia was policing themselves. So that was the deal. Well, shortly after the Lindbergh kidnapping, they decided, the Barker Carpus gang, that we ought to look into this. We're robbing banks and places, people shooting at us, we're shooting back, da-da-da-da-da. Kidnapping sounds so much easier. You kidnap somebody rich, you send them a ransom note, you get your money, you release your prisoner, all is good. So the first one they kidnapped was a gentleman named William Ham. His dad owned a ham brewing company there in St. Paul. They kidnapped him, they sent a ransom note for $100,000. Within 3 days they had their money, they released Mr. Ham, everything's good. A few months goes by, and they decide that was pretty easy, we'll try this again. Well, this time they kidnapped a gentleman named Edward Dreamer. His dad owned the Smith Brewing Company there in St. Paul and was also the owner and president of the largest bank in Minnesota. They kidnapped him. This time they send a ransom note for $200,000. Well, things didn't quite go as well this time. The first thing that happened, old man Bremer tried to negotiate the price down. They didn't go for that. Then it was set up, they were supposed to got their money, but they were tipped off by Big Tom Brown that it was a set-up deal, that they were all going to be assassinated. So that fell through. The other thing they didn't realize was old man Bremer was close personal friends with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the president. So, they finally get their money. It's all set up. They get their money. They open their suitcases up, and there is a note from old man Bremer. It says, I know you told me not to get the feds involved, but they demanded to have all the serial numbers of all this money, therefore making it what they called hot money. It's hard to launder this money because anywhere you try to spend it, the feds are going to be following you. So, they finally get rid of a little bit of it, not enough to really speak of. As of today, we don't know where some of that money is. It's rumored that it's buried in a field somewhere. I don't know. So they finally get their money. They release Mr. Bremer. Now, FDR even mentions this kidnapping in one of his fireside chats, that he's putting a lot of pressure on J. Edgar Hoover, find these kidnappers of Mr. Bremer. So they're really concentrating on the Barker Carpus gang now. So they know they're coming after them. They decide to split up. Doc goes back to Chicago. Ma and Freddie and a gentleman named Harry Campbell, they go to Miami, and they're staying at the El Commodore Motel down there. Alvin Carpus and his very pregnant girlfriend, Dolores Delaney, they go to Cuba. While they're at the El Commodore, Ma and Freddie and Harry Campbell, they approach Joe Adams, who was kind of a go-between for gangsters and mafia people. If you needed to get in touch with somebody or you needed something, you went and seen Joe Adams down there. So they approached Joe Adams and tell Joe Adams that they would like to have a place in Florida, off the beaten path of Florida, that they could rent, maybe have good fishing, good hunting. And Joe Adams was on the board of directors at the Biscayne Kennel Club was Carson Bradford Jr., the gentleman that built this house. So he knew the house was sitting up here. He approaches Mr. Bradford. Mr. Bradford says, no, we've never rented the house. We're not going to start now. Freddie and Harry Campbell drive on up from Miami up here to Ocklawaha, and they see this house. Sits on a lake, good fishing. Middle of Ocala National Forest, good hunting. Ocklawaha, Florida, pretty much off the beaten path of anything in Florida, still is today. So they go back and they offer Mr. Bradford $75 a month cash, pay the first and last month up front, and Mr. Bradford accepts this deal. At that time, houses around the lake was renting for anywhere from $8 to $25 a month. I always say this should have been Mr. Bradford's first red flag. Something here's not quite right. But it's rumored that he had ran up some gambling debt down there at the Kennel Club. He accepts some money. So Ma, Freddie, and Harry Campbell move into this house on November the 7th, 1934. They remained here for the next 9 weeks. Having the time of their life, probably the best living that Ma had ever had. December the 8th of 1935, the feds get track of where Doc is in Chicago. So they surround his house. Out walks Doc one morning, walking down the sidewalk. He sees these agents or people following him. So he tried to dodge between two parked cars there on the icy sidewalk and streets. He slips. The agents are there immediately with their weapons pulled. And Doc was known for some of his sayings. And they said, "What's your name?" And Doc's reply was, "You know who I am." They said, "Well, that's right, Doc. Where's your weapons?" He said, "In that house right there today. Where ain't that a hell of a place for them to be?" So they arrest him. Later that evening, they go to the house of a gentleman named Brian Bolton. Brian Bolton had been in with the Barker Carpus gang on both kidnappings, and his really big claim to fame was he was the watchman supposed to identify the people coming into that garage in Chicago at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Of course, he recognized some of the wrong people, but they go to his house. There's a small shootout. One gentleman's killed. Brian Bolton surrenders, and he wants to make a deal. He said he can tell them where Carpus and Freddie are all at in Florida. He had been down here hunting and fishing with them. Said it was near on a lake near Jacksonville. So the other thing they got when they searched Doc's house, they found a Florida state map. And in the circle of it there, around Ocala, just a big circle. So they had that. They also found a letter that Ma had written Arthur or Doc. And it said they were enjoying the winter down here, not the cold, hunting and fishing's good. And your brother is still trying to capture Old Joe. Old Joe being this legendary 17-foot gator that swims a lake down here in Florida. So the feds immediately take off for Jacksonville. They get no leads there. They find people have told them about a big old gator up by Gainesville. They go up there and check that out. Come to find out that gator had been dead for several years. So Old Joe Gator brings the feds to Ocklawaha, Florida, Lake Weir.
How about this?
Incidentally, if anybody ever been over to Gator Joe's restaurant, up there by where they sell the t-shirts, the gentleman that finally captured Old Joe cut off his left paw, and it's in a shadow box over there. It's kind of interesting to see. So, and he only measured 16'9" instead of 17 foot. But old Joe Gator brings the feds to Ocklawaha. They go to the postmaster, ask if anybody knew in town that they know of, and the postmaster tells them the only people new in town that I know of are the Blackburns. They're renting the Carson Bradford home. Of course, the Blackburns is a alias that the Barkers had used before, so the feds know they're getting close. The postmaster tells them to go over here and speak to Mr. Barber. He just retired from being a prison guard at Leavenworth Prison. So they go and they talk to Mr. Barber. They show him some pictures of Freddie. He recognizes Freddie. And then it dawns on him, he knows the elderly lady that walks around out in the yard, because she used to come and visit her son Lloyd, her second oldest, when he was in prison there in Leavenworth. So they know they've got him. While he's over there, special agent in charge, Earl Conley, he draws up a map of this place. There's a copy of it right inside the main door there. Over here is an occupied cottage, an unoccupied cottage, a old shed, maybe served as an outhouse, a chicken coop. There were some orange trees up through here. On this side, there's a two-car garage. Of course, Mr. Barber's home, and down here closer to the lake was Miss Westbury's home. Himself, there was 14 agents. Now, everything I'm about to tell you is well documented. Every agent that was involved in this had to write a memo. Started out, they was probably writing on their car hoods, whatever. They got back to the office, or typing it up on typewriters, missing letters, missing keys, through 4 or 5 sheets of carbon paper like we used to make copies of stuff as we wrote them down. Then it was transferred to microfiche. Now you can go on the computer and read all of this. About 1,200 pages long. It is some very tedious reading. Some things are blocked out. Some things you kind of follow. What are they saying here? Missing letters, whatever. I based this part of the story basically off of 3 of those 14. Earl Conley, the special agent in charge, a gentleman over here, Agent Doc White, and another agent up here, Muzzy. Starts out, the agents, the night before January 16th, most of those agents stayed up here in town at Ocklawaha, in the Ocklawaha Inn. That building is still there, right at the main stoplight. You can look up there, it still says Ocklawaha Inn. It was kind of a boarding house, restaurant downstairs. And according to Conley, they surround this house around 5 o'clock in the morning. Somewhere around 7, it's starting to get a little bit more daylight than dark. So Conley steps forward, it says 30 yards from that screen door, and hollers that you're surrounded by federal agents. Surrender and nobody will get injured. They don't hear anything. Minutes pass. Doc White kind of steps forward and says basically the same thing. No reply. Minutes pass. Conley, for the second time, steps forward, and this time he adds that they want Freddie Barker out of the house first. They know he's a cold-blooded killer. And he said, if you don't surrender, we are going to fire gas canisters into the house. Well, Doc White's memo says he hears a woman's voice. It doesn't say, I mean, we know now it was Maul, but the agents are not for sure how many people's in the house. Where is Harry Campbell? Where is Alvin Carpus and Dolores Delaney? So they don't know how many people's in the house. then Agent Muzzy or Medulla over here, he says in his memo that he hears a woman say, "All right, then go ahead." They hear nothing. They think maybe they're going to surrender, but it doesn't happen. Finally, Connolly gives the motion for them to fire the gas canisters. They shoot the gas canisters, trying to get in those windows. They're too far away. Some of the canisters land out here in the yard. So now these agents have tear gas in their eyes. It says that one of the gas canisters hits the side of the house. When that happened, machine gun fire started coming from what they said the southwest upper floor, upper window. That would have been those windows up there. Of course, when it was over there on the 9 acres, it said this way to the lake. Now we're sitting this way. But, the agents immediately return fire. He's got Connolly scrambling back for cover. They go to shooting, and then one of the memos says that simultaneously, gunfire, doesn't say machine gun fire, it just says gunfire came from the lower southwest window. So if that's to be believed, that tells us that Maul Barker probably picked up a weapon. Until that point, she was just guilty of harboring a criminal, but now she's fired on federal agents. They immediately return fire. Doc White's memo says that gunfire only lasted a couple seconds. Now the gun battle, it seems to be somebody running from room to room, upstairs, downstairs, shooting to make it appear there's more than 2 people in the house. Somewhere around 8:15, Connolly decides that there's only 2 people in the house. Where are the rest of the gang at? They don't know. But they don't want to be caught in the crossfire here. So he tells them to go get some more gas canisters from some of the agents up by the road and shoot them into the back of the house. They do that. Those were successful. Now the gun battle's out the back side of the house. And you got to remember here, you know, if you believe in the 2,000 over 5 hours or 641, and they estimated that the Barkers fired out 250 in a 2-hour period. It's pretty intense gun battles. It all comes back around to this room up here. So Connolly tells all of his agents to concentrate your gunfire on that room. Connolly's memo says it got eerily quiet at 9 a.m. One of the other agents' memo says no gunshots came out of the house after 9:15. So give or take 10-15 minutes in there, that's when it was basically over. Incidentally, none of the 14 agents were wounded or killed. Now they sit and wait. Whatever. Finally, they hear rumbling coming out of this cottage over here. And out comes a 26-year-old man of color named Willie Woodbury. So they go to him, they say, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, my wife and I have been hiding under our bed for the past several hours, didn't know what was going on out here." They said, "Well, who are you?" He said, "Well, I'm kind of the handyman caretaker here for the Blackburns." Said he runs all their errands, does a little cooking, takes care of the chickens, takes care of the orange grove, da-da-da-da-da, just a general handyman. So now we've got a little bit of contradictory stuff going on here. First off, J. Edgar Hoover had telegraphed Connolly after Connolly told him that this gentleman had volunteered to go in the house, and Hoover's like, after all this big gun battle, you're going to send a civilian in there? So he's getting chewed on. Willie Woodbury later had an interview with the Tampa Tribune, and his story says that he was gave $10 or $20 and a bulletproof vest to be the first person to go in the house. So you think, Conley getting chewed on by Hoover, you would think Conley would have said, well, Mr. Hoover might not have mentioned the money, but he could have said, we gave him a bulletproof vest. No mention of that. Willie Woodbury's story is he approached that screen door. It's latched on the inside. One of the agents gives him a pocket knife. He slits the screen door, walks in, unlatches it, goes in the living room area there, and he states that the floor is covered in broken glass and bullet casings. And he notes that there's a small pool of blood over here in front of those two windows. He finally goes upstairs, sticks his head out of these windows up here, and reports that they're both here, they're both dead. So at that point, they call the coroner down here. He holds a quick inquiry just to make sure who fired first, the Barkers or the agents. It was determined the Barkers fired first. Conley goes upstairs, or not Conley, but
Really?
Whatever. He goes upstairs. He makes big notes about Freddie Barker. He goes down to what clothes he was wearing, all this detail about Freddie Barker and how he was laying in the floor. And all it says at that inquiry was Small Barker's body's removed from the scene. We've never understood all that, but whatever. Now Pyle Funeral Home, mortuary from Ocala come down here and remove the bodies. They take the bodies back to Ocala. They're cleaned up some, and they're put on display for the next 30 days. It was the biggest thing that happened in Marion County. Started out for a dime. It was later reduced down to a nickel after a crowd started dying down. They used to walk through and view these bodies. It's rumored that they wore the whatever. Then they were taken down. They were put on ice in the morgue, and the bodies remained there for the next 8 months. Nobody came to claim the bodies. Now, Daddy George, who had left in 28, still legally married to Maul, still Freddie's daddy. They were found here for $14,000. He put in a claim for some of their personal belongings and this money. Throughout the whole court system, got done with lawyer fees, da-da-da-da-da. Daddy George ends up with $1,400. He uses this money to come back to Ocala, take the bodies to Welch, Oklahoma, where they're buried in the Williams Timber Hill Cemetery out there. End of Ma and Freddie. As I said before, Ma and all 4 boys died by gunfire. The first to die was Herman, the eldest, in and out of trouble. He and another gentleman robbed the Newton Ice Company in Wichita, Kansas. They get away with that. They're pulled over by 2 policemen on motorcycles for speeding. And when the officer on the driver's side comes up to the door, Herman pulls out his revolver and puts 2 bullets right through his forefront teeth, immediately killing him. The other police officer fires inside the car, wounding him. They drive off. Herman finally wrecks his car in the ditch of the 24-hour diner. And the police report there says he exited the vehicle, was crawling across the gravel parking lot, and he uttered the words, "Tell Ma I'm sorry," and he takes his revolver and blows out his brains, other than to go back to jail. End of Herman. So the next to go was Ma and Freddie. The next to go would have been Doc. Doc was convicted in St. Paul of kidnapping. He was sentenced to life in prison at Alcatraz. And after 4 years and a few months being there, him and 3 other gentlemen decided that they will try to make the first night escape from Alcatraz. They went missing at the 3 a.m. count. The guards immediately go to the water. They find them. They tell them to surrender. 2 of them surrender. Dale Stample gets shot in the back of his leg, and they put a bullet right in the back of Doc's head into Doc. Somewhere along the line, Daddy George died. I think he was age 88, just old age. The last to die would have been Lloyd, the second oldest. And he's got quite a remarkable story here. He was in trouble with his brother Herman when he was young, always in and out of trouble. He decides to go straight. He joins the army. He serves through World War I, gets out with an honorable discharge, doing good. One day he decides he might try the criminal life again. He robs United States Postal Service payroll truck. He's immediately apprehended. He is sentenced to 25 years at Leavenworth, where Mr. Barber would have known him from. 1938, the Federal Bureau of Prisons comes to Lloyd and they say, look, you have been a model prisoner. You have no incident reports. All your brothers are dead. Your mom's dead. You are paroled. You are free to go. He joins the Army the second time. World War II, he serves as a cook at a POW camp in Fort Custer, Michigan. He gets out with his second honorable discharge. Gets out, marries his longtime girlfriend, Jeannie. Jeannie has 2 children by a previous marriage, Michael and Eileen, and they also have 2 children of their own. He gets a job south of Denver at the Denargo Bar and Grill. He's a cook there, assistant manager. Everything's going good. He gets up one morning to go open the bar and grill, and Jeannie asked him if he would come and take the 2 younger children to school that morning because she wasn't feeling well. And he, being the good daddy we think he is, that's what he done. He walked up his back steps, something similar to those, and Jeannie is there with a 12-gauge shotgun and blows 3/4 of his head off. She said in court that she thought it was an intruder trying to get her children. Her son, by the previous marriage, testified that she knew exactly what she was doing. She had been planning it for a long time. The state agreed with him. They sentenced her to an insane asylum in Pueblo, Colorado, where she died some 33 years later. So anyway, that's the end of Lloyd, and you know about it. A little bit about Alvin Karpis. He was the last public enemy. At this time, there was J. Edgar Hoover. This is 1936. We now have the established FBI. A young senator from Tennessee kept asking Mr. Hoover, how many people have you arrested? Well, my men have arrested this many, we've taken down this many public enemies, da-da-da-da-da. Mr. Hoover, how many people have you arrested? Of course, the answer was 0. So there was a lot of pressure on him to find Alvin Karpis. Alvin Karpis had robbed a train in Ohio. He had bought an airplane. He hired a pilot to fly him to Hot Springs, Arkansas, where he took up with a lady named Grace Goldstein. She ran a brothel there. Really, the postal people are the ones that really got closer to him before the feds did, but the feds were there. They pretty much beat Grace Goldstein, give her a 3rd-degree, beat her with telephone books. She finally tells them that Alvin Karpis is in New Orleans, but she don't know the address. The agents immediately go to New Orleans. They find where Karpis is staying. They telephone Mr. Hoover, say, we got him. And Karpus wrote 2 books in his lifetime. The first one was Public Enemy #1, the Alvin Karpus story, and the second one was called On the Rock, about his 26 years he spent at Alcatraz, the longest term anyone had ever spent at Alcatraz. In his book, he says his arrest went down like this. He and another guy came out of the house, they get in the car, the feds are there pointing their weapons at them, and one of the agents says, "You can come out, Chief, we've got him." At which time J. Edgar Hoover and Clyde Tolson came walking out between houses, 2 houses down, and J. Edgar Hoover utters the word, "Alvin Karpus, you are under arrest by the FBI." So it goes down in history that J. Edgar Hoover arrested the last public enemy. Then Mr. Hoover says, "Cuff him, boys." They have never taken the public enemy #1 alive. They had no handcuffs. They came there to kill him. Agent Buchanan takes off his tie. They tie Alvin Karpus' hands. They finally ship him back to St. Paul, where he goes on trial, found guilty. Life in prison at Alcatraz. 62-63. The federal government shuts down Alcatraz because it's determined that it's too expensive to operate a penitentiary on an island. Everything has to be shipped in and out. They transferred some of those prisoners to McNeil Island Penitentiary off the coast of Tacoma, Washington. Years and years later, they shut down Tacoma, Washington because it was determined it's too expensive to operate a prison on an island. Imagine. Alvin Karpus was known kind of by the name of Creepy. He did not call him this to his name, to his face. To his face, he was known as Ray. But while he's at McNeil, he meets this gentleman, a little guy that they call Little Charlie. Little Charlie wanted to learn to play the guitar. So Alvin Karpus teaches him how to play the guitar, and Little Charlie ends up getting paroled, and Little Charlie is none other than Charles Manson.
Yeah.
Of the Bionica Tape murders in California, who always wanted to be this big rock and roll star, hung out with the Beach Boys. Alvin Karpus taught him to play the guitar. 1969, Alvin Karpus gets paroled. He goes back to Canada for a short time, ends up in Spain. He dies over there at age 77. His death certificate said he died by an accidental overdose of sleeping pills. End of the Barker Karpus game. Y'all ready to go in the house?
Great job. Great job.
I tell everyone that, yes, it's kind of a long and drawn out story, but otherwise, if you don't tell it, it becomes nothing more than a house. 2 people were shot in. So this kind of gives you a little history. I know I get long-winded.
Hey, y'all gonna put that on YouTube, right?
Yeah, you probably will.
Okay, how would I find it?
He's great. Yeah.
All right, if you say so. Must be true.
I like getting started.
Yeah, he was good. It shows how they came out to be like that. Yeah, he told me that started out something else, and then they became the FBI. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So you can take those pictures like this and hold it up to the wall. This lamps to the
Oh, yeah.
This is the same, that furniture over there. And then you can see all these bullet holes here where they patched them and did such a poor job. Down there's a picture of a 16-foot John boat pushing the house.
Yeah, I saw that.
Across the lake.
I watched the,
Did you?
we were on our way back to the villages, and we just happened to look over and there
February
was
1.
That's
that was
crazy.
really interesting.
I had been over to the house just from the road many years before all this, like gangster stuff. And I happened to be over here at Hampton Beach the day they moved it. And I'm like, people kept showing up over there and taking pictures. They got binoculars. I finally asked them, I said, so what's going on? I seen all these boats over this way. And they said, oh, they're moving them all.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. It was.
So I did, was it there the day that it
Yeah.
moved?
It was fun.
Anything you see in the house is all stuff that's left from the Bradfords. Nothing in here is from the Barkers.
Oh, okay.
This boathouse here is still sitting down there on the original location. You can see it from the highway up there. This is the Ocklawaha Inn. If you'll notice here, Ocklawaha did not have a C in it at that time. I'm told that they added the C in 1990. This is what the boathouse looks like today, one of the palm trees over there. And those bullet holes were not that big, but people with pocket knives and fingers over the years, such as what bullet holes you'll see in this house, they were patched at one time, but over the years. Of course, the picture of Roy with his head, and believe it or not, we have a worse picture than this of him. No, that's when they had something. If you notice though, some of those pictures here, this china cabinet has no bullet holes in it, no glass was broken in it. So I tell every group that Ma and Freddie should have hid behind this china cabinet.
Okay. That makes
Can I ask you a
sense.
question, please?
Yes.
I thought the story was Gator Joe, the restaurant, was the one that turned them people in. That's what it says on their menu.
I don't care what.
I'm not doubting you, I'm just telling you, I was confused.
Gator Joe's was not Gator Joe's then. It was called Johnson's Beach.
Okay.
No, it was really, there was a name before that, I can't remember. It was a little place that they sold gasoline for boats, worked on boat motors and all that. Then it became Johnson's Beach. At one point, that place was a roller rink. And then it became a restaurant, and Gator Joe's picked up on that.
I ain't never going back there.
Oh,
They lied.
Ain't that good anyways.
I'm in good friends with the lady that she let us have a couple of these, this picture, and she let us on the 90th anniversary of the shootout. She let us bring the gator claw over here.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's kind of interesting. Or
I like the whole, the Gator Joe, there's Joe the Gator
Yeah,
story.
Joe.
I didn't know that.
another interesting place in town is on Woodstock, like this little bar up there called Mall Park.
Oh, okay.
It's just a beer and wine place, and I tell people all the time they hardly ever have wine. Beer. But the neat thing about it, they got a real Thompson machine in there, and they'll let you take it outside and get your pictures taken with it.
No kidding.
In '69, we went for a ride from south side of Chicago to Wisconsin to this flea market. And there was a Tommy gun there. Back then, it was $1.99. You couldn't sell it legally. You could then.
Yeah.
Then after, I'm like, God, what would you buy that? I know, right?
I've
It wouldn't have fit in the
I've got one
Corvette.
out there in my old car, but this guy made out of wood.
That car out there did not belong to Mall Park.
No, that's mine.
Nice
That's
car.
pretty cool.
Inside, like it.
Like I say, they had a 34 Buick. That's a 36 Chevy.
Yeah, that's a nice car.
That was my father-in-law's car.
Boy, you got an amazing memory, buddy. Really enjoy it.
You see the door back there? Okay, I failed to tell that. The kitchen and both bathrooms have been remodeled. Because they kept using this house up until 2014. There's an electric range over there,
Yeah.
you know.
How did we get up to the bedroom where she was just...
Where you come in the front door?
No, right here.
So this is
two
the
rows of
original
steps
refrigerator, right?
Thank you.
Supposedly that is a 1930-something General Electric refrigerator. They tell me it still runs. I don't know. It's not.
Didn't they used to have reenactments?
What's that?
I heard
No,
they used to have.
they used to.
They used
I can show you pictures. The reenactments they did, they never did it with this house.
No?
A gentleman started doing the reenactments. They used his front porch as the upstairs room. There's pictures in that book over there. And he'll even tell you in that newsletter or news article there that the reenactments was cheesy.
Oh, I just heard they used to.
She's still dead. Oh, look, they had Bryant back then. Yeah. Fall out.
Don't shoot, G-Man, don't shoot.
Yeah, there, I got it.
Yeah, so they tell you about all the guys, everybody that they got. But you get a chance to see it.
I will.
James Stewart, yeah. It's a real good movie, too.
Yeah, those are just some of the other criminals that that time.
All of them was at the same time. I see Bonnie and Clyde over there. I saw that movie, too.
Yeah.
With Warren Beatty.
The best one on Bonnie and Clyde is a movie called, help me out here, it's got Kevin Costner in it.
I'm not sure.
Bonnie and Clyde?
I don't know if it's not called.
The
No,
Untouchables?
it was Bonnie and Clyde was
It's only been, it's probably been out about 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. With Kevin Costner?
Kevin Costner, and the guy that played Woody Harrelson on Cheers.
Oh, yeah, I know. I know
Is
the
it Kevin
movie you're
Costner?
talking about. But that was a movie about two guys that just went and hunted down all the.
They hunted down.
Right, I remember. I forgot the name of it,
They hunted
but I know
down
you
Bonnie
talking.
and Clyde.
Yeah, Harrelson.
The Highwayman?
The
Yeah,
Highwayman,
there it is.
yes,
That's
yes.
it. That's it. The
Yes,
Highwayman.
he was just a Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
So,
Josh.
he was really retired, and the governor got him to come back and chase down Bonnie and Clyde.
Wow. Oh, okay. A lot of holes in that wall. I see that.
Yeah.
That's for real. I know that.
Yeah.
A little bullet hole.
Some over there, too.
And then the dots on them deals. Yeah, right.
That's how they pump the water in the house. Isn't that something? Blue sewing, is that the
He's probably outside. He's probably outside.
No, the guy that's at the bottom of the stairs. Maybe I'll go down and ask that guy.
Okay.
That's real tough, man. Well, he's gonna cook a lot. They probably have all that stuff.
This is the cedar. This is how they used to keep everything cool. We had certain
Oh, really?
cedar in the pot. Cedar chest, everything. They had months. Right. skeleton. Don't worry about that. Machine guns are no problem. They need to be ashamed of themselves, having people like that on display. I think we're getting ready.
That's the one that gets you shades and blurring at her or something.
Yeah.
Okay, the car changed colors. Over time. Oh, well, who was that? Look here.
Man, got it down there. Come on. I'll
I
get her.
clocked like my dog.
We'll get a red
Oh,
plane.
God.
Thank you, Mima.
That's great.
You got it?
Yeah.
Honey?
I got it too.
Yeah, I got you.
She got a bunch. Hey, do you want some help?
Dude, man, I'm so glad we met
He's already
y'all.
home.
Yeah, because now you'll see, if you do watch the other one too, you'll see they
Well, you heard me ask
had
a
guy
question
up
about
here.
Gator
Well, they
Joe's,
had
right?
a guy up
The
here.
menu
A guy
says
came
this.
up here with them.
And I believe
Today
that.
they're not. But he came up and that was the stuff the guide was telling them.
Oh,
And
okay.
so the video guy was like, oh, cool. So you have to watch the other one to get that
Yeah, we will
Park
definitely.
Ranger's story about upstairs.
This is pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think it is. It's
Took
just-
us about 2 months to get an appointment, how
Yeah.
about y'all?
Same. We were out of town for a while, and so when I
I
got
couldn't
this, she
go out
said,
of
"Oh,
town."
she said, I'll email you," and then she did right away. So.
You want to have it up?
Phone number now. Yes.
No.
You want to go, Lou?
Yeah.
I'm the one thinking, but